Yesterday on First Take, you called for Cathy Engelbert's resignation from her role as WNBA commissioner. When you hear Caitlin Clark there, how does that strike you?
Doesn't strike me at all. Same reaction. Cathy Engelbert should resign as the commissioner of the WNBA.
Yesterday on First Take, Stephen A. Smith looked directly into the camera and did something he rarely does. He called for someone's job, not a coach, not a player. The commissioner of the WNBA. And when you hear what just happened behind closed doors at WNBA headquarters, you'll understand why one of the most powerful voices in sports is demanding Cathy Engelbert pack her bags and leave. Because we're not talking about another ratings controversy or another Olympic snub. We're talking about something far more dangerous. The WNBA just declared war on the only person keeping their league alive. Stop everything you're doing right now and listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you represents the single most self-destructive decision in the history of professional sports management. Multiple sources close to the WNBA league office have confirmed that Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's team has issued a formal warning to Caitlin Clark. And the reason for this warning? It wasn't a drug test. It wasn't a conduct violation. It was because Caitlin Clark signed a historic broadcasting deal with NBC Universal, the same network that broadcasts WNBA games, the same network that just helped secure $1 billion media rights deal for the league. That NBC, the commissioner's office is claiming conflict of interest. They're saying that Caitlin working as a broadcaster for NBC while playing in the WNBA creates ethical problems. They're threatening potential consequences if she doesn't comply with league guidelines. Let that sink in for a moment. The woman who filled your arenas, the woman who got you on ABC primetime, the woman who brought you charter flights and actual media attention goes out and secures a multi-million-dollar deal to promote basketball on national television. And your response as commissioner is to send her a legal warning. If you believe the story behind the story matters, if you believe we need to expose this kind of institutional sabotage, hit that like button right now. It tells us you're paying attention to what's really happening in the WNBA, and it tells the algorithm that this conversation matters. Because trust me, the league office is watching. Stephen A. Smith didn't mince words when this news broke. He took off his glasses, looked into the camera, and said, "What many of you have been thinking for months, this is blasphemous. This reeks of jealousy. The commissioner should be sending Caitlin Clark flowers, not cease and desist letters." He's absolutely right. And the fact that one of the biggest voices in sports media is publicly calling for a commissioner's resignation should tell you just how catastrophic this decision really is. Many of you have been saying this for weeks in the comments. You've been connecting the dots. The Olympic roster snub, the Rookie of the Year voting controversy, the constant negativity from veteran players, the media silence when Caitlin gets targeted on the court. Now we have confirmation of what you suspected all along. The WNBA doesn't just fail to protect Caitlin Clark, they actively work against her, because here's what the commissioner's warning really reveals. It exposes the deep institutional jealousy that's been poisoning this league from the inside. Think about the timeline. Caitlin Clark enters the WNBA and immediately breaks every viewership record. Attendance doubles, merchandise sales explode. Suddenly, everyone from Nike to State Farm to Gatorade wants a piece of WNBA marketing. The league negotiates a new TV deal worth exponentially more than their previous contract. Private charter flights become standard instead of commercial coach. Everything the veteran players fought for during a decade of grinding suddenly materializes the moment Caitlin Clark puts on a jersey. And how do those veterans respond? How does the league office respond? With gratitude, with recognition? No, with resentment, with warnings, with attempts to humble her and remind her that she's just a rookie who needs to know her place. Let's talk about the NBC deal specifically, because this is where the commissioner's argument completely falls apart. Caitlin Clark signed a contract to appear as a broadcaster and analyst for NBC Sports. She'll be part of their basketball coverage, potentially interviewing players, providing commentary, appearing at major sporting events. This is the kind of mainstream crossover exposure that advertising executives dream about. NBC Universal is the broadcast partner of both the NBA and the WNBA. They air WNBA games, They promote WNBA content. Caitlin Clark being on NBC programming, talking about basketball, showing her personality, reaching audiences that would never otherwise tune into a WNBA game. That's not a conflict of interest. That's free marketing worth millions of dollars. Stephen A. Smith made this exact point. He said promoting the NBA helps the WNBA. Basketball is basketball. When casual sports fans see Caitlin Clark on their television screen during Sunday Night Football or Olympic coverage, wearing NBC branding and talking about the game she loves, those fans develop a connection. They remember her when WNBA season starts. They tune in. They buy tickets. They purchase jerseys. This is marketing gold. The idea that this somehow damages the WNBA is not just wrong, it's insane. It's like saying Michael Jordan filming Space Jam hurt the Chicago Bulls. It's like saying LeBron doing TNT appearances undermines the Lakers. The logic doesn't exist. And the fact that the commissioner's office is pushing this narrative proves they're either incompetent or operating with ulterior motives. Reading between the lines, this warning isn't about protecting league interests. It's about control. It's about making sure Caitlin Clark understands that despite bringing the WNBA more value in one season than the previous decade combined, she doesn't call the shots. The league office does. The old guard does. And if she steps out of line, if she gets too big, if she forgets her place, they'll remind her who's really in charge. But here's what makes this situation even more insulting. Let's talk about money. Do you know what the WNBA pays Caitlin Clark as a base salary? $76,000. In the world of professional sports, where NBA rookies make millions and MLB players sign nine-figure contracts, the face of women's basketball makes $76,000. For context, NBA mascots average around $600,000 annually. The person in the furry suit shooting t-shirts into the crowd makes 8 times more than Caitlin Clark. And the WNBA, while paying her less than a mascot, thinks they have the right to tell her she can't sign an 8-figure broadcasting deal with NBC? The audacity is breathtaking. Imagine working a job that pays you minimum wage, then landing a second opportunity that pays you $10 million a year, and your minimum wage employer tries to fire you for moonlighting. You'd laugh in their face. That's exactly the position the WNBA has put themselves in. If Commissioner Engelbert wants to enforce exclusivity clauses and control Caitlin's outside employment, she needs to pay exclusive money. Put $50 million guaranteed on the table. Negotiate a contract that actually reflects Caitlin's market value. Then maybe you earn the right to have an opinion about her other business ventures. But for $76,000, you sit down, you say thank you for showing up, and you get out of her way. The NBC deal isn't just better compensation. It's the main event. It pays Caitlin more in one weekend broadcast than the WNBA pays her in 4 years. And by issuing this warning, the league is trying to enforce a non-compete clause on an employee they barely compensate. It's degrading. It's insulting. And it proves the WNBA still views itself as a charity hobby instead of a professional business. So we have to ask the uncomfortable question, why? Why would Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, a former CEO who understands corporate strategy, make such an obviously self-destructive decision? She's not stupid. She knows this will backfire. So why issue a warning that's guaranteed to create a public relations nightmare? Let me know in the comments what you think is really driving this decision, because the answer reveals everything about what's broken in the WNBA's leadership structure. The answer is pressure, not from sponsors, not from broadcast partners, from the locker room. This warning didn't originate in a boardroom. It came from veteran players whispering in the commissioner's ear. We've been documenting this jealousy for months. You've seen it in the comment sections, in the subtle shade thrown during interviews, in the body language during All-Star Weekend. These veteran players spent a decade grinding in obscurity, flying commercial, sharing hotel rooms, playing overseas in Russia just to make rent. Then a 22-year-old rookie arrives, and suddenly there are charter flights, primetime games, and 8-figure endorsement deals. The resentment is palpable. They look at Caitlin Clark and they don't see an opportunity. They see a threat. They see someone who didn't pay the same dues they paid, and they want the league to humble her.
derogatory and unappreciative of the athletes that represent her league. And then the person I call the golden goose of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, you understand, who is box office for the WNBA. Just look at the numbers, look at the ratings, look at everything. For her to come out and say,
Stephen A. Smith is exactly right. Caitlin Clark is the golden goose. She's box office. And instead of protecting her, instead of building the entire league around her star power, the commissioner is listening to players who are mad that someone finally made women's basketball mainstream. They're demanding the league remind Caitlin that she's just a rookie, that she's not special, that she needs to know her place. And Cathy Engelbert, instead of being a leader, caved to the mob. She issued this warning to appease the jealous veterans. She's trying to show the locker room that she's not playing favorites, that she'll hold Caitlin accountable just like everyone else. But here's the reality check. Caitlin isn't like everyone else. She's the only reason anyone outside hardcore basketball fans knows the WNBA exists. You don't punish your star player to make the bench warmers feel better. That's a loser mentality. That's how you destroy a league. Stephen A. touched on this exact dynamic. He said these veterans need to look in the mirror. Instead of hating on Caitlin's NBC deal, they should be asking how they can get one. Instead of trying to pull her down to their level, they should be thanking her for raising the salary cap and creating opportunities that didn't exist before she arrived. But they can't do that. The envy runs too deep, and this official warning is the manifestation of that institutional jealousy. It's hazing dressed up in legal language. Now let's talk about the legal reality, because this is where the WNBA's threat completely collapses. NBC Universal is owned by Comcast, one of the largest media conglomerates on the planet. They have legal teams that cost more per hour than the WNBA's entire salary cap. Do you honestly think the WNBA can win a legal battle against Comcast? It's Godzilla versus a gecko. If the WNBA actually tries to enforce this warning, if they attempt to fine Caitlin or suspend her or block her NBC appearances, Comcast will unleash lawyers who will sue the league into the Stone Age. It's a suicide mission. The WNBA has zero leverage here. Caitlin's standard player contract almost certainly doesn't prohibit outside employment, especially when that employment is broadcasting, which is media work, not competitive basketball. The conflict of interest argument is tissue paper thin. NBC airs the NBA. The WNBA partners with the NBA. NBC broadcasts WNBA games. Where exactly is the conflict? There isn't one. This is a fabricated excuse to exert control. And let's talk about the sponsors, because they're watching this very closely. State Farm, Gatorade, Nike, Wilson, all of these massive corporations have invested millions in Caitlin Clark. They're Team Caitlin, not Team WNBA. If the league declares war on her, if they try to suspend her over this NBC deal, those sponsors will pick up the phone and deliver an ultimatum. Fix this, or we pull our money. The WNBA is biting the hand that feeds them, not realizing the hand belongs to a giant that can crush them. Stephen A. Smith warned them perfectly. You're playing with fire, and you're covered in gasoline. Weak, that's the word. The commissioner's response to Caitlin Clark's success has been weak, petty, and small-minded. And now the entire sports media world is watching and saying the same thing Stephen A. is saying. This commissioner needs to go. So what happens next? This is endgame territory. The WNBA has drawn a line. They've warned Caitlin Clark. Now she has to respond. And if I know anything about Caitlin, if I know anything about the competitor she is, she's not backing down. She's going to show up on NBC. She's going to hold that microphone. She's going to interview LeBron James at an NBA game. And she's going to look directly into the camera and dare the WNBA to do something about it. She's calling their bluff. And when she does, the league will face two choices. They can suspend her and destroy their entire product, or they can back down and look weak in front of the veterans who demanded action. It's a lose-lose situation entirely of their own making. If they suspend Caitlin Clark, the fans will revolt. I'm talking about a complete boycott. We need to be ready for that possibility. If they touch her over this, we cancel League Pass. We stop buying tickets. We unfollow every official account. We show them that we're here for the talent, not the administration. Stephen A. Smith demanded the commissioner's resignation, but the fans need to demand a revolution. We cannot let these bureaucrats destroy the golden era of women's basketball because of their own insecurity and jealousy. Here's the truth they don't want to admit. Caitlin Clark has the ultimate leverage. She doesn't need the WNBA. She can go to Europe, where they'll pay her actual star money. She can join the new unrivaled league, where players are treated like professionals. She can retire tomorrow and be a full-time broadcaster, making more money than she'd ever see in a WNBA career. She has options. The WNBA needs her like a drowning person needs oxygen. Without Caitlin Clark, they go back to playing in half-empty arenas with regional cable coverage. This warning is the final proof we needed that the current leadership is unfit to govern. They've taken the greatest gift in the history of women's sports and treated it like a burden. If you want to see where this story goes next, if you want to know what Caitlin's response will be, and whether the WNBA will actually follow through on their threat, you need to subscribe and turn on notifications right now. Because this situation is developing by the hour, and we're going to be covering every single twist. The next video will reveal what NBC's legal team is planning and what Caitlin's camp is saying behind closed doors. You won't want to miss it. Commissioner Engelbert, if you're listening, here's the message. Resign. Step down. Let someone who understands business, media, and star power take over. Because if you continue down this path, if you let jealousy and pettiness drive your decisions, you'll be remembered as the commissioner who killed the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is going to be fine. NBC is going to be fine. But the WNBA is on life support, and the commissioner is standing on the oxygen tube. The warning has been issued, but the real warning is for the league itself. Get out of Caitlin Clark's way or get run over. Because this train is moving, and it's not stopping for anyone. Especially not for a league that pays her less than a mascot while trying to control her entire career. The world is watching. Stephen A. is watching. And the clock is ticking. Fix this, or it's over.